Okay, it's on. Hi everyone. Hope you had a good week. I have a cold again, so I don't sound great, but I will do my best. This week we're talking about effective teamwork, which is such an important topic for all areas of life. Have you done your weekly assessments? It's Friday. How did the week go? What were you able to achieve? What worked? What didn't work? What did you learn? Did you try something different? Did you meet someone new? Did you learn something new? These are always things to be grateful for and take note of. I hope you're tracking these things and writing them down. It's useful to keep a journal so that you know what progress you're making because it's very hard to measure something or make progress in it if you're not measuring it. You have to have data and facts. People are always like, oh, it was quite a busy week. What is quite a busy week? Oh, it was quite expensive. What is quite expensive? You have to have something to compare it to. You need to have data points. How do you know it was a busy week? Was it the same as last week? Was it the same as this week last year? How do you know? What do you check it against? How do you know you're doing better? So write things down, measure them, track them, and you can track everything in your life, even non-work stuff, even personal things, so that you're assessing and seeing how you're making progress and how you're moving forward. Otherwise, how do you know? You're just assuming, going on a feeling or maybe or quite. It's a bit expensive, it's a bit better, it's a bit slow. Track it. And then you can set targets. Then you know a slow week is when I only made 2 sales, or a slow week is when I made 15 sales, so that you can see how you're moving and how you're progressing. It makes a difference. This week, I started doing Instagram stories. It's a series called Favorite Things, where I talk about one thing a day that's useful in my life. That's one of my favorite things that's helped my life become better. So I think this week we covered an app called Pocket that saves articles, evening reflection questions, which are very useful, and planners. You know how you can get a planner which has like different questions and prompts for you every day. Some of them have quotes, some of them encourage you, and it helps you to organize your day, your week, your month. So I'll be doing that on Instagram every day, probably not on weekends though. Things that are useful in my life. So if you're interested in that, follow me on Instagram. So effective teamwork. When we think about teamwork, I think we are always working in teams. No matter if you're a student, if you have a career, if you're an entrepreneur, there's always stuff that you have to do with other people. No man is an island, right? So, being the most effective team person you can be is a skill you can practice and work on, and it makes everything better in your life. It makes your work flow smoother, whether you're on a wedding committee, or you're planning a party, or you're planning a project, or you work with people in the office. It makes things better for you because when people have a shared vision and shared goals, they have to work together to achieve them. And that's what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, is to achieve certain things, different milestones, different projects, different events as we move along. So, when we talk about effective teamwork, the first thing I would say is look at yourself. Are you being a team player? Are you putting in the effort? Are you doing what you have been assigned to do? Are you showing up for the meetings on time? Are you taking notes? Do you know your action points? Make sure these things are clear to you, that your role in the team is clear to you, that your expectations are clear. If you don't understand when your boss assigns you on a team and you're not really sure what you're supposed to do, ask, speak up. You need to make sure that you know what you're supposed to do so that you can break it down and make sure you are being a good team player. But that responsibility is yours. You can't wait till the next meeting and say, last time I didn't really understand what you guys wanted, so I just left it. That is being a poor team player. You need to take responsibility and ownership of the role that you are assigned on the team. There's a reason you're on that team. There's a reason people need you there and are trusting you with those responsibilities. So make the most of it and make sure you are putting in the effort that you can. And if you can't, if they're asking you for something that is beyond your capabilities or you don't have the time, you have to say it. The second most important thing on a team is communication. You need to be able to speak up. You need to ask questions. You need to make sure you all stay on the same page. Because if everyone is doing their own thing in a different direction and then you come for the monthly meeting, you're not going to move forward because we've all moved in opposite directions. The project hasn't moved forward to the goal, to the vision that we're trying to achieve. So you need to make sure that you're communicating, you're asking questions, you're staying in touch, you're communicating when you have an update. These days, WhatsApp is so helpful. Just make a group. Say, yeah, I sent this, I did this is the update. You're not overly intruding on someone. There's so many different types of team software these days, like Asana or Slack. They're like programs that help you to work in a team and make it clear who is responsible for what, who is doing what, who has achieved what, so that the team moves forward and so that you're managing the team effectively. Communication is really important because that's how you all stay on the same page and that's how you all know what's going on. So I always say it's better to over communicate than under communicate. I'm always telling my team, send me a million emails. I would rather you send me 6 emails every day than 1 email a week, because I need to know what you are doing. I need to know that we're on the same page, that the vision has not changed, that if you're having a challenge, I'm aware of it. I can help you, or you can help me, or we're going to assign some resources to help you with this challenge. If things are moving forward and progressing well, still tell us. And so it's good to manage expectations by stating the type of communication at the beginning of the project or the beginning when you set up the team. Say, we'll meet every week on Zoom, or we're going to use a WhatsApp group, or we're going to be using Asana, or I'm going to check on you every morning, or we're going to have physical meetings once a month, or we're going to go to the partner's office at the end of every month and discuss the project. So agree on how you're going to communicate and how regularly, what is the format of the communication, and then also agree on what is important in the team. So I think the third thing with effective teamwork is the clear structure. So not just knowing your role, but also the whole structure of the team. You know, with project management, they always say you need to have a budget and a scope and a timeline. So you need to agree on this thing at the beginning, all of you together, so everyone is clear. Because if you don't understand what you're doing there, or what the project is, or what the action points are, it's not going to be achieved properly. So make sure there's a clear structure at the beginning of the project, or when you're assigned on the team. If you're new to a team, introduce yourself. Tell the people, oh, this is what I'm about, this is what my skill set is. They've asked me to join to contribute this, and this. You know what I mean? So that it's clear. And then make sure you get to know everyone else on the team. Oh, okay, this is the finance person, this is the marketing person, this is the this person. So that it's clear who is responsible for what. Because if two of you are trying to do the same thing, you're wasting time and you're going to clash. And if two of you think the other one is doing it, but you've not communicated about it, the thing gets dropped. And then no one does it. You know that quiet moment in Zoom calls when they're like, so who handled this? And everyone is quiet because everyone thought someone else was going to do it. That's not what you want. That is not effective teamwork. You have to make sure that the structure of the team is clear. And it's easier to agree on these things at the beginning. It's not always possible, but as soon as you join the team, you can use this and make sure that is part of you being a good team player. I am this person on the team. What do you do on the team? What are we doing here? What is the plan? What is the project? What is the reporting structure? Where are we going with this? What's the deadline? Who's in charge of the budget? Do we have ability for this? Ask questions. Communication really goes a long way, and you can communicate to make sure that the structure is well set up and that everyone knows what they are supposed to be doing by when, with who, with what resources, to make sure things get done. Events is always a good way to see this because I'm sure everyone has been on a wedding committee. It's how they organize it. That's how weddings happen in Africa. We don't have like wedding planners like in other countries as much. I'm sure we have them now. But most of the time, you're dividing the work among your friends and family and assigning roles and resources. There's a timeline. We all know the wedding meeting is on this day at this restaurant. We all know who is the chairperson. We know who is in charge of food committee, drinks committee, music committee. And on that group, in that committee, they all have either a WhatsApp group or they meet separately. They send emails. There's a structure. There's a system. So being structured on a team makes it work, makes it go further. It's very surprising to me that we can be this organized in weddings, but when it comes to work, it's just a mess. Oh, yes, as a team, we're all working on it. What does that mean? You need to assign each other roles. You don't have to give yourself fancy job titles, especially in small businesses, but you need to know who is responsible for what. The only way someone can take responsibility is if it is clear that that is their responsibility. And when they do, as a team player, you should also respect that responsibility. You have to help them to do what they have to do, but don't do it for them. Don't undermine them. Don't forget that they are the ones on top of that. If you think they're not doing a good job, give them some feedback, give them some support and encouragement privately. But it's important to clearly define the team and define the structure of the project. So, what is the first phase? We have to do this, this, and this before we move on to this section. Because if one person is moving faster than the rest of the team, it's also derailing the project. If one person is moving slower, it's derailing the project. So you need to have the structure and the timelines. So think about it like a project. Even if it's a ongoing thing, even if it's a wedding, make sure there's a structure, there's a budget, there's deadlines. Everyone's role is defined to make sure that you can all move forward clearly. And don't forget, communicate, communicate, communicate. It is so important. You'd rather be disturbing someone. Today someone texted me on WhatsApp. He's like, can I flood your WhatsApp with all the information? I'm like, send, bring it all. Like I would rather you give me too much than nothing at all or than too little. It's okay. Just communicate. You'd rather nag someone with too much information. Has anyone ever told you, stop updating me? I don't need to know that the project is successful? No. Everyone wants to know. Not everything needs a response, but it doesn't hurt. Even when we work in teams and at my office, I always say CC everyone who could possibly be involved. Who could this possibly affect? Sometimes you see the poor finance guys CC'd in so many marketing emails, but it's important because one day when you go to him and say, oh, we didn't get this payment or oh, this client needed this, he can search through and be like, oh, yeah, I remember seeing an email about that. Or you can check if there's a dispute, there's a paper trail. There's always someone who has CC'd in the email, so they can't throw you under the bus in a meeting and say, so and so didn't send any communication about that. How are we supposed to know? Yo, they sent that email and 14 of us were CC'd there. We all saw it, don't lie. So you would rather over communicate. These communication tools these days are very affordable and very fast. So you would rather be sending updates all the time, asking questions all the time to make sure that the team is moving and that everyone is clear and on the same page. So be the best team player you can be. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And make sure there's always a structure on your team. Make sure things are clear, the roles, the responsibilities, the timelines, the budget. What other resources are you going to need? Who is responsible for what? When do we need it by? You have to organize these things. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Things don't just happen magically. To be productive, to be successful, to achieve your goals, you need to be organized about these things and communicate them clearly to everyone else that is involved. Because it's not most things in life you can't achieve on your own. You have to take your own initiative. You have to be the best you can be, but most of the time you have to work with other people. And it's not an organization you're working with or a company or a firm, it's other human beings you're working with. So even if it's your partner, even if it's your client, even if it's your supplier, you have to work as a team because you have a shared vision, you have a shared goal. You're both trying to achieve something within a certain timeline for a reason. So think about that all the time. We're always working in teams. These kinds of habits and structures you just get used to doing all the time, and it makes all the different interactions you have more effective. Okay, I'm going to move to questions. Um, how do you manage someone who isn't a team player? These people are difficult. First, I would say talk to them. Sometimes people are not aware that they are not a team player. So I would say talk to them privately and say, on the team, it would be helpful if you were more da, 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 or if you were less da, 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 da. Some people are very explosive or selfish or direct, and it makes the team very uncomfortable. Some people just don't do their part on the team. So I would say first discuss with them to see how aware they are about how they're behaving and if they can actually improve. If they're willing, well and good. If they are not, like they're in denial, or they can even tell you, I'm not a team player, I don't want to be on the team, I don't want to do this, then I would suggest if you can remove them from the team and replace them, remove them. You just don't need difficult people making life harder for no reason. Life is hard enough. If you can't remove them, I would suggest you assign them work that is plug and play, that they don't need to be part of the team for. Give them a task that they can do on their own. Just tell them deliver it by this date. Then we'll mix it into the rest of what everyone is doing. As long as that's clear and it's not going to disturb other people's work, it can work. Some people are very difficult to work with. Some people are very, very introverted and they don't know how to work with other people and they can't communicate and it's so much work for them. And yes, they can improve if they try, but they have to be willing to. So if they're not willing to, and you still need them to do their work, keep them separate. It's okay, just as long as you communicate on their behalf. You get them all the information they need, you tell the updates to the team, and you get the part of the team or the technical work that you need from them and just like fit it back in to assign it and make sure that it's working. That would make sense. There was another question on Instagram, but let me try and find it. If you have any other questions, you can send them down. I know I'm kind of rushing, but I'm really tired. Uh, communication hack. What is the communication hack to make the team effective? I would say over communicating is the hack. It's not that there's one particular way. And also, the more comfortable you get and the more used to it, the faster it is and the easier it is that you get used to telling people stuff. I would say use technology to help you, but also use courage. Sometimes it's a hard conversations that have to happen, and that's what's slowing down the team. But being in the area of thinking about how you're communicating, you're on the right track. So see what's the easiest way to deal with your team. Is it in-person meetings? Is it on Zoom? Is it an email? Is it a WhatsApp group? What is the best way to communicate to your team? That's easy for everyone. Because sometimes you make a WhatsApp group because it's easy for you, but some people are not used to WhatsApp, or some people don't have smartphones. So you can't exclude them. You have to find a way that works for everyone. If you're going to physically meet, where is it convenient for everyone? You have to think about people's transport, people's time, people's distance. So you have to assess what is the best way to communicate. But there are very, very many ways of communicating. That's the good thing. So give options and talk about it as a team. Shall we meet this every week like this? Shall we meet once a day like that? Can we do a walking meeting? Shall we meet downstairs quickly, or shall we meet over lunch? See how you can figure it out and make sure you're communicating with your team often and regularly. How do you manage a huge team of different cultural backgrounds and religions who come to work with ambiguous ambitions? That's funny. What are ambiguous ambitions? Get people to define their ambitions. You have to ask them, what are you trying to achieve? What are you bringing to the table? What are we doing here as a team? Why are we here? Why are we working together? These are the things that come in structure that you want to define in advance at the beginning. I think coming from different backgrounds and religions, it doesn't matter. That's a good thing. Diversity is proven to be a good thing. It gives you more perspectives, more ideas, more options. So I would see that as an asset. What it means is you have to just be a bit more sensitive. I find it strange how people always like make prayers before meetings, especially because they seem to always be Christian prayers. I'm like, there's so many different religions. Why are we always doing this? I feel like it's insensitive, but that's my opinion. I think that's a Ugandan thing. I think it's good to be sensitive of people's culture. Sometimes I'll be on a team and we'll use slang like Ugandan words, and I know there's foreigners in the team, so I have to like translate or explain what that slang means. So I think if you have different cultural backgrounds or religions, just try and be sensitive about it. It's not a bad thing. It's not going to make the team work harder. You just have to make sure that you're all on the same page, which is why the communication is important. Make sure that they're understanding everything that the other one is saying, the examples you're using, the language you're using, the expectations you have. Make sure that you're not asking the Muslim person to go and meet with the pork supplier. Just small sensitive things that you have to think about when you have teams with diverse backgrounds. But it is really much, much better to have diversity on a team. If you don't have gender diversity, cultural diversity, religious diversity, even country diversity, it's not a good thing because you're all thinking in the same way. You're all going to have the same perspective. So you're not going to see all the different options or ways that you can get stuff done. So see it as an asset. And if things are ambiguous, make sure you are clearly defining it. That is the team leader's responsibility to make sure everyone is clearly understanding their role, understanding the objective, and the ambitions should be clear to everyone, not be ambiguous and vague. Use things like SMART goals. Make sure things are clear and they're written down and it is communicated. At the end of meetings, send an email. These are the notes from the meeting. This is what was agreed. These are the action points. And in the action points, who is responsible for each action? Otherwise, you'll reach the next meeting and everyone is confused again. And that's what you want to avoid. So communication will help you a lot there. I hope that is helpful, guys. I think those are all the questions. Let me go and sleep. It's Friday, thankfully. Do your reflections. Have a wonderful weekend.